Hi, everyone. My name is Jenelle Riley. I'm so thrilled to be here today and so thrilled there is a second season of All Creatures Great and Small on its way. Please join me in welcoming today's guests who have brought James Herriot's story to the screen. The actor who portrays James Herriot, please welcome Nicholas Ralph. The actor who plays Siegfried Farnon, Samuel West. Mrs. Hall, played by Anna Madeley. The actor who portrays Tristan Farnon, Callum Woodhouse. The actor who portrays Helen Alderson, Rachel Shenton. We also have the show's writer and producer, Ben Vanstone. The executive producer for Playground, Colin Callender. And the executive producer for Masterpiece, Susanne Simpson. Thank you so much for being here. Hi. So I would love to start with Susanne and Colin and Ben, because the first season of the show was so highly acclaimed and adored by audiences. I'm guessing that the plan was always to continue with another season, but at the same time, did you ever worry that you'd set the bar too high with such a good first season?
Well, I don't think so, actually. I mean, I think that you never know how it's going to be received. We were already into series 2, writing it, so we didn't have much of a chance to think about how it would be received before we were actually conceiving the next series. And I think that we were quite deep into series 2 in its conception and what it was going to be when series 1 went out. So it was a good thing. I think it's far better than series 1 going out and everyone hating it. So it's kind of it actually was much better to think, well, people like this, and so yeah, maybe we're doing something right.
And I think that Ben had so captured the tone of the series and come to understand what was working about the show in the first season, that the second season is informed by that, and the writing, his writing, and the performances from everybody have all taken on a real leap from that first season. So as good as you think the first season is, I hope everyone feels the same as I do, which is that the second season has taken it to a whole new level.
I know that when Colin, spoke to us and said he wanted to make this series again, I think we were all anticipating it would be good, but I think it's just exceeded all of our expectations. And I think that's to Ben's writing and the cast. I think everybody's just fallen in love with you again. And so we're very excited that there are going to be more seasons coming.
For the cast, I would love to talk about, without too many spoilers, what's in store for season 2. Nicholas, let's start with you, because obviously we find James back in Scotland at the start of the season, comes back and sort of resumes his former life. But what can we kind of expect from him, and how is he different this season?
We do find James back in Glasgow, and he's helping out a local vet there, and it's a plush practice working with small animals, something he really fancied for himself. And he's offered a job as well, and his parents aren't doing so well, and they would love to have him back. Cut to, he's back in the Dales, and he's met again by everything he loves there, and the surrogate family he's got, the Dales themselves, and of course there's a girl that he quite likes as well, which is nice. But we just see him just growing in confidence and growing into himself, really, professionally and personally as well. And we see that, yeah, throughout this series. He kind of fills his vet's coat a little more, which is quite nice.
He's standing up more regularly to Siegfried, it looks like. I don't know how he feels about that, but
you'd have to ask him. I'm not sure. I would say he probably doesn't. It's not his favorite thing, probably.
Modified rapture.
Rachel, Helen obviously made a big decision at the end of season 1. How are we going to see that affecting not just her, but her relationship with James this season?
Yes, so the last time we saw Helen was the wedding that wasn't on Christmas Day. Of course, she made that really big decision not to marry Hugh. And I think what I really like about this season is she steps towards James. I'm like, don't give anything away. She steps towards James tentatively with no expectations, which is really indicative of these two people anyway. So they do re-meet in this season, and it's under different circumstances. and we get to see a little bit more of Helen, really. And I think she has a bit more fun in this season, and her relationship with Jenny changes ever so slightly. It sort of moves away from being more parental, if anything. So she gets to be a bit more of herself and have fun.
Do the two of you, do people stop you on the street and like, sort of, I don't want to say get angry, because I know the British are very polite, but, people really are rooting for these characters. Do they let you know how passionate they are about that?
They do, yeah. I've been stopped in supermarkets being like, is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Yeah, it's very sweet.
Likewise, I actually went home for a week, and I was out in a bar, and so I had all the guys from school, even much younger than myself, 22, 25, coming up to me and, what happens next? Do they kiss? What happened? What do they get? So it was really funny seeing that as well, from a younger.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've all gotten very good at keeping secrets. Yeah, that's a yes.
Yes.
Possibly comments.
Yeah.
She's got stitches.
Anna, we have learned some more about Mrs. Hall's difficult past. Can you let us know what's in store for her this season? We all just want her to be happy.
I think she is. I think at the beginning of this season, she's, we saw her at the end of season 1, still very upset about her relationship with Edward and where that's at. And I think over this winter, she's decided to leave that be and accept that Edward has to come to her. And so I think we meet her at the end of lambing season, all is well, and the door is open for new adventures, I think, this year. So there's a bit of loneliness and there's some new friends that come along. So again, I think her world opens up a little bit as well in a new way outside of Skeldale House, which is fun.
I actually wanted to address with Anna and Rachel, the female characters on the show are so wonderful, and it's been a while since I've read the books, but I don't remember them being quite as rich. Was that how great is it to have such complex roles? And for the producers, was that a conscious effort on the part of the creatives to really bring more life to these characters?
I think you can speak to Ben. I mean, Ben absolutely was a concrete decision on his part that he wanted to give the female characters more agency. And I think it's one of the reasons the show speaks to a contemporary audience. Mm-hmm. Ben.
Oh, Ben, you're muted.
Hold on, sorry.
No
yeah, I mean, it's whenever you write any show, you want all your characters to be well-rounded, male and female. It doesn't really matter what gender they are, and they weren't necessarily represented in the books because Herriot's viewpoint was very narrow. He was telling his anecdotes about his time as a vet up in the hills and treating the animals. So most of the stories are centered around him and the animals, but those women populate his world. And so when we're representing that on screen, we of course have to dig deeper and properly represent them as characters. And this series, I think it's really interesting for Helen. I never wanted it to be a fait accompli with James. She's got to decide if she likes him and what he gives to her, and so she has agency in that story as well. And same for Mrs. Hall, that she runs that house. I always think that she's like the hub of the wheel, and all the other spokes come off her and come back to her, and all the stories kind of come back to her, and she keeps everyone sort of running as she does that house. And but she's got her own things going on as well, and why that's so important to her and why that house is so important to her. I think it's so it's always important to me to do that with the female characters.
Rachel and Anna, what is it like to get these scripts and see such incredibly complex 3-dimensional characters on the page?
It's you go.
I can't see you, Anna, so I don't.
I was just going to say it's fantastic. The writing is absolutely the gift that you bounce off that, and also having come back for a second series, you get to know the characters in a whole another level. We've got lots of great female characters coming in as guests as well, but it's really fun to return to it and build those extra layers in and see them in even more different situations, so you get to know them even better. So it's great having that rich writing. Well, for any actor, it's wonderful. It's Rachel. What were you saying?
You said it all. You said it so well. Well done. No, it was it's brilliant. Well, from when I first read the sides, and when I got the audition through initially, it was Helen's sort of directness and assertiveness that really jumped off the page, and very fortunate. And thanks to Ben's scripts, that's just grown throughout the series, and we see more of that in season 2. It's a pleasure. So I think that the women have always been like this, but it's just nice that we get to see it now.
Mm-hmm. Samuel and Callum, this actually might be my favorite relationship on the show. Maybe it's because I have siblings, and it's not unlike their relationship. These two brothers have not exactly been honest with each other. Will we be seeing their dynamic changing any this season?
It goes through. I think it goes through every single sort of possible emotion.
It does.
Over the
Right
course
the
of
gamut,
ones, isn't it?
from A to Z,
Yeah.
or B at least.
It really tested our range, didn't it?
It did. Well, I think, going from what the others have said, one of the great pleasures of series 2 of anything is the chance to stay in character with somebody you like, and so often when you're playing a part that you really enjoy, you have to stop. And actually, when you don't stop and you work with an ensemble this fine and that you love and get on with so well, you can really go into so many different places. I mean, Cal's character deepens and becomes more complex, and our relationship does that, as he says. And it's just such a pleasure to do that, professionally, with people that you love and respect so much. I think the main problem for Siegfried in series 2 is that he told a lie in series 1 that comes back and bites him on the bum, and he can't quite remember, what lie it was or how it's going to bite him.
Because you're gonna lie, you need a good memory.
Exactly. Because I sort of do want him to become the vet I know he can be, but at the same time I know it might be illegal, and I respect him, but I'm also incredibly micromanaging and petty. So it's a toss up, really.
It's funnily enough not actually illegal. It was it's 1946 that it became legal to be a qualified vet to practice on animals. So at this stage, the enthusiastic amateur was
practice being the operative word.
Was very much accepted.
Tristan actually might be the character I relate to most on this show, and I feel like he's really grown, since season 1. And his good heart always comes through, I feel. Is it a joy to play someone like that?
It's just so much fun, playing someone who's consistently upbeat and happy. It just leaves you in the best mood at the end of every working day. And then as you said, series 2, we definitely started to see more sides to Tristan. As Sam said, just got to explore more of the character, and also the history of the characters. We find out more about their life before the show started, with their father and things like that. These sort of little glimpses into their sort of past life, which is just I love those moments.
I don't know if it's just because I've become so used to you two playing brothers, but I think you're actually starting to look alike.
I am copying Sam's style.
No,
copy it.
It's enormously flattering in my case.
I wanted to ask Colin and Ben and Susanne, you have some new cast members joining this season. I believe Patricia Hodge is taking over as Mrs. Pumphrey, and Dorothy Atkinson is on her way. Can you kind of talk about expanding this cast and them joining?
So Ben, do you want to go into that?
Well, obviously with Mrs. Pumphrey and the late great Diana Rigg, we felt that we did quite a lot of soul searching actually to decide what we were going to do, because obviously Diana Rigg was incredible, an incredible part of the show, but we've also got a responsibility to tell these stories, and Mrs. Pumphrey is such an iconic character and has been played before by other actors as well, and as have all these characters actually, that we felt that we couldn't let go of that character. So we searched about and started looking at recasting, and Patricia was right at the top of the list. And then we spoke to her, and she was wonderful. And I think that she's done a great job coming in. And I think that there's a real sort of respectfulness to her performance. And I think that she's built on what Diana did in series 1 and sort of reimagined it for herself in series 2. And we're very lucky to have her. So we're very grateful for that. And Dorothy as well. Not Dorothy, it's Dorothy. Yes.
Yeah, she plays Diana.
Yes.
Because it was
You
Dorothy,
shouldn't have
the
written
character
somebody
in
called
series
Dorothy
one.
in the first series.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Well, she is an interesting character who comes into Siegfried's life in some quite fun ways, which he enjoys this series. That's what I'll say about that.
Samuel, can you talk about sharing scenes with Dorothy and what that dynamic, what we can expect?
Dot Atkinson is one of the most brilliantly accomplished comedians Britain has ever produced. It's an honor to share a screen with her. But she's also really precise in her character work, whether she's working with Mike Lee or Alan Ayckbourn or Ben Vanstone. She comes in and represents a particular sort of class of slightly genteel Yorkshire lady who doesn't care at all what people think of her, and also tells a really good dirty joke. And both of those things are enormously attractive to Siegfried, who is a lonely widower, and they have a lot of fun together.
There seems to be so much affection and joy between all these characters on screen, even when they're fighting. Does that sort of bleed over into real life, or maybe it's the opposite? Maybe the way this ensemble gets along bleeds over into the show. Is it as much fun to make as it is to watch?
Definitely. Yes, just getting to hang around with all the dogs as well, as much as we do, is just a dream.
The only difficulty this year was COVID making it impossible for us to socialize outside work for about the first half of the shoot. We had our first beer together after about 8 weeks, I think.
Wow.
And that was really difficult.
I mean, it is worth saying that I do need to tip my hat to the cast and to the production team, who obviously aren't here on this call. But shooting in the world of COVID is immensely challenging, and this series was shot right in the heart of it all, when everyone was still learning really how to deal with COVID and what the implications meant on a film set. But my hat goes off to the cast and the crew for the way they handled it. It was not easy. It meant the production schedule was very tough. We didn't have the flexibility that you normally have on a shoot to move scenes around and things. So it was a very complicated and difficult shoot, but you'd never know it from on the screen. And I do want to say one other thing that I think again is a tribute to both the cast and to Ben, which is the humor in the show. There's no question that part of what you're seeing with this cast working together is the sort of bonhomie and the sense of fun and playfulness, but it's also on the screen as well. And Ben's writing and the way the series moves from moments of real of heart and emotion to moments of levity, and you saw that partly in the clips that you've already seen today. That's one of the distinguishing factors of the show, and it's one of the things I think that makes the show so appealing is the enormous humor and wit in it.
I really want to second what Colin is saying, because I think that is the key to the success of this show, is the humor and the deep emotion, the connection that all of the characters have to one another. It's truly a community of people, and I think the audience has really enjoyed that during our time of COVID. So it felt like just the right show to be watching during that time.
We actually have a question from the audience about the humor, and it is from Jackson from San Francisco. It's actually specifically for Callum. Wants to know, do you enjoy humor in real life as much as your character Tristan does in the series? And do you ever play pranks with the other actors in the series? If so, whom?
Well, yes, I do enjoy humor very much. I think one thing that pops up into my mind is in series 1, when I realized that Sam played Dr. Frankenstein at the beginning of Van Helsing, which when that film came out, I was obsessed with that film, like in a big way. And so when I realized, I went back on the night, and it was on Netflix at the time. So I watched it and basically learned all of Sam's lines, and then came in the next day and started quoting the lines to him throughout the day, which he wasn't the biggest fan of.
I'm not as much of a fan of the film as you are. We should say Callum tells that story in this rather marvelous book. Now available, Fact fans. For those of you who want some more stuff,
more insight.
If you want more pranks, it's really good actually. I'm not just saying that. I mean, I've read everybody's interviews, and they all sound like themselves, which is quite unusual for things like that. I think.
Back to this Van Helsing thing, Samuel, at what point did you realize what he was doing? Or did you
quite quickly? I don't have that many lines. I'm dead before the credits.
I am still traumatized by your death in Howard's End. So if they could stop killing you in movies, I would actually really appreciate it.
I don't know if I told you this. I've dealt with that trauma by buying the bookcase.
That's right.
Yes, it's upstairs. It's full of my bird books. So that actually is a nice way of dealing with that trauma.
Amazing. Of course, we're going to have to talk about one of the highlights of the show is the wonderful animals. Can you let us know like what specific animal interactions we can look forward to? And I guess mainly for Samuel and Callum and Nicholas, do you like working with animals?
I mean, I've sort of only really worked with animals, so
it's the speciality.
So yes, there's definitely more amazing stuff from. I mean, he gets a mention every time, but he has to. Derek, he's just
all hail Derek.
Stand out. More amazing stuff from him, but also some other good guest animals.
Derek has a Christmas episode which is truly moving. Actually, I mean, I say this without any irony or even exaggeration. He's read the scripts.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
The moment when what was it, Cal?
Yeah. So the scene was. I'm going to throw you under the second time I've told this story now, but it is very funny. The scene was Sam walks into the kitchen, Derek Tricky Woo follows him, and then Sam walks into the pantry and Derek follows him in there. Tricky follows him in there. And Sam walked into the kitchen and then forgot to go into the pantry, but Derek walked into the kitchen and then went into the pantry and then looked back being like, oh, can you not remember?
That's so shaming. I told you, he's not only read the scripts, he knows his lines better than me.
He knows all of our lines as well, yeah.
We actually have a question from Ella, who is a 12-year-old viewer in North Carolina, wants to know if they will see Tricky Woo in season 2.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Okay. Very much so.
Of course.
More than one.
Yeah, he's back and he's better than ever.
I was a 12-year-old viewer. I was a 12-year-old viewer when the 1970 series started in 1978. And I would say to any 12-year-old viewers that one of the things we take seriously, actually, particularly for young women, because there are more young women training as vets now than there are young men, is that all the stuff with the animals has to be, I mean, it has to be fun, it has to be safe, it has to be real, but it has to be true to what might be a veterinary profession, because so many people, just reading the chat, so many people who enjoyed the 1970 series were inspired to become vets from it, and we'll be part of that too. So we take it very seriously.
We have a question from Stacy, who wants to know if anyone on this panel, do you ever want to be a veterinarian when you were younger?
No, I didn't. I'm far too emotional when it comes to animals. There's no way I could cope. I'm kind of chief cuddler in this show. That's as close as I get, and I'd be all right with that, but I could never do it.
I'm scared of horses as well. So,
Really?
yeah, I grew up in a racehorsing village, so there's a lot of sort of racehorses knocking about. And yeah, they were skittish, massive, crazy, beautiful animals that would kick your fence down. So I would stay clear of them. So no, I was never keen to be a vet myself, unfortunately.
But now you're writing about animals, and I don't know if you have people who help you with your research, or if it's just James Herriot's stories are so specific.
Yeah, we've got the stories, but we've also got an advisor, Andy, who actually worked with Alf White, and Jim White as well, Alf's son, who's the real James Herriot's Alf White. He's an advisor on the show as well. So we've got a good core group of veterinary advisors. I love animals. I never want to be a vet.
We have a question from Tom from Rochester, wants to know if any of the cast grew up on farms or handling animals, if it was easy, or did this come naturally to any of you, or did you really have to learn to work with animals?
I grew up, there was my back garden, and then a fence, and then a field. So that was always full of cows and sheep and things like that. And when we were really little, the farmer would lift us over the fence and take us the length of the garden on the back of one of the cows that we named Friendly, because she wasn't scared of us. But that was as close I was to a farm. And I think Rachel has a similar story, or she just likes to copy me, maybe.
I also had a fence at the bottom of I just look like a liar every time this happens. I also had a fence at the bottom of the garden where there were cows, but he gets in first and says it.
Nonsense.
I also had a fence at the bottom of the garden.
Yeah, I had one at the bottom of my garden as well.
So this is a show where you're working with animals. It's a period piece. You have so many great characters. You're also filming during COVID. For each of you, what sort of proved to be the most difficult part of making season 2? And I'd love to start with Anna.
Oh gosh, in terms of COVID, we were so blessed that loads of our crew, most of the crew came back. So it was that very strange thing of coming back on set and all these people that we got to know in the first series, and we couldn't all give each other a hug and go and have a drink and say hi, how you doing, what you've been up to, how's the year been. It was a very strange environment to walk into. I mean, we were so lucky that we already had those relationships, so we could then get in and but it felt very unnatural, very very mean to not be able to embrace everybody like in every way again when we returned. So that was hard, and there was a sort of practical element of keeping, we had to keep in our zones, but we did it, and we were working. We were so lucky to be able to do it, and we had the most amazing medic, Phil,
well said.
who kept us all safe, and it was brilliant. And we all slightly dreaded seeing Phil. I felt bad because we always thought he was going to come along with the test to stick up our nose, and no one wanted to see him come in the room. But he kept us all safe and was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, it had its moments of toughness, but it was also great to be back. So yeah.
How nice that you were filming outdoors so much.
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, just that you were filming outdoors a lot. That must have been nice.
Yeah, lovely.
Sorry, Samuel.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it's nice. We started in March, and I wish we'd done our Christmas episode in March when there were no leaves on the trees and we still got breath when we were outside, because we ended up doing our Christmas episode in June with wilting Christmas trees pretending to be cold, dressed in enormous overcoats. But no, it was extraordinary. I tweeted a picture of the first slate of series 2, and I realized afterwards that it had the same director's name, the same director of photography's name. It was drawn by the same clapper loader and held by the same member of the camera crew, and surrounded by lots and lots of people who'd been asked back and had said yes without too much thought, I think. And that was, as Anna says, delightful. But it was it was tricky because it was simultaneously lovely and not as intimate as you wanted it to be. But yeah, I mean, people like Phil, we didn't lose a single day's work through COVID. And I was on 2 other shows last year, which closed down twice each.
Wow.
So, you know, his work is, he's a real hero. And it's great to be able to sing his praises here, because we felt very lucky to be working, and we were. And so much of this show actually has been about the thing you described as community earlier, when it came out, when people couldn't have that community. So, you know, we feel blessed to be able to continue that idea.
Any of the other actors want to talk about what was challenging this season?
Yeah, just as Anna said, we were well. First of all, we went back to rehearsals to start off with in kind of February time, and all of a sudden you were in a room with 15 other people with masks on and things like that. But for months I'd just been in a flat with one other person. So then all of a sudden you were like, well, hello again, which was really nice as well, which was lovely. But then you got onto set and people would be coming up to you with masks on and being, hey Nick, how you doing? You'd be like, all right, mate. And they go, it's me, it's Dave. Oh, Dave. So it was, and then your first rehearsal, you know, we didn't take masks off until the first take. So the first take was almost like your first rehearsal. So there was little teething problems like that. But we soon quickly got over those and into the rhythm of it, as the guy said. So yes, and it was handled, yeah, as the guy says, so well. We were in great hands, and very fortunate with how it all panned out in the end, I think.
We did a lot of acting with our eyebrows to start with, because it's so weird. Once you've rehearsed like that, you lose the ability to communicate with the rest of your face. And then when you take the mask off, you realise, oh yeah.
A lot of the early scenes are really overacted.
Really weird.
We have a question from Cecile. Whoops, sorry, I just lost it. I'm getting to you, Cecile, from Franklin, Tennessee, wants to know, it's for Nicholas. Could you tell us about an experience that happened during filming where you thought you were prepared, but quickly realized you weren't?
The average day for me, I think. Well, I can't go into too much details, of course, without giving away spoilers. But what I would say is this season, certainly we're back bigger and better. There's a lot more animals of all different sizes. And of course, they're lovely from the front, but I spend 90% of my time at the back end of these rather large animals. So not the place you want to be, but we've got some brilliant procedures in it. And again, the animals are trained so well that you're put to ease straight away. But we were doing some quite tricky, intricate procedures with these larger animals that I think, you know, people will really love and enjoy. And for that, you can prepare as much as you like, but until you're there with the horse or the cow or the bull, you know, it'll then just go as it goes. But yeah, as I said, the animal trainers and everyone have them all so well trained in things that you do really feel comfortable. But yeah, you can't really prepare overly for those kind of scenes.
We have a lot of people wanting to know if anyone is scared of the animals. Have you all gotten pretty used to working with them, or is there anyone who has some hesitancy? I
think one of the problems is that the animals that we're working with on the whole can smell fear. I mean, it's, you know, sharks and cows is the short list. Andy said when we worked with him to start with, if you show confidence to a horse, then they'll respect you, but a cow will kick you if it wants to, no matter how you behave. And I find cows much harder than horses. I got trodden on again in scene 2, because there's this thing that cows do where they like to know that you're next to them, so they can hit a mark which they need to do to be in focus and where they need to be in the shot, and you can stand next to them, and then if you walk away to go and do some acting, they don't like it, so they move towards you because they go, hang on, that person was there just a second ago, I want him to be there again. So they move towards you, sideways onto your foot in this case. So I mean, I can't be doing with cows, but you have to be very, very confident and let them know where you are, hold their tail, make noises, stroke them all the time, and then they'll just about not tread on you. That's about the best I can say of cows.
When you said sharks and cows in the same sentences, I had this moment where I was like, did I miss a shark on this show?
Yeah, we jump it in the next series.
Just throwing it out there to Ben. If you want to work in a shark, that would be awesome.
You do the best, yeah.
We have a question from Sam. I believe this is for Ben, maybe Colin and Suzanne. Dr. Harriot was a man of great faith in God. Will that aspect of his life be brought to the forefront in coming episodes?
Don't think this series it necessarily comes to the forefront at all. I don't think that that's part of his character that we really play too much of through this series that I can think of.
We have another question from AJ from Boulder, Colorado. Wants to know if any of you work with dialogue coaches to refine your accents. And I've actually seen a couple comments specifically about how good Anna's accent is. So I would love to ask her.
Thank you. Yeah, I work with a really brilliant lady called Natalie Grady, who I've worked with her a couple of times since, actually, on other things as well, because she's just fantastic. And it's really useful having somebody, because you can get a general idea of an accent, but then to get really specific and think about who is this person, where they're from, and then once you actually get Ben's scripts in front of you, you want to be able to make sure you've got everything there covered, and everything covered that you might, if there's something you think you might say in between, or you might think of an alternative, or is there a more Yorkshire version of saying that, another word for that, or you try and cover all of that as well. And Natalie's brilliant at helping you find your own personal nuance with what you're doing. And on top of that, we're surrounded by Yorkshire crew who are incredibly kind and supportive and also really helpful. So if I'm a bit lost one day, if the music or something doesn't quite work for me, I've got lots of people who I can just go up to them and say, how do you say this for me? Just say it and just hear different versions of it that day and choose how I want to do it. So I've got a constant resource around me, which is amazing. And it really helps you tune in as well, because we get actors from across the north who are all doing then other accents, so you really start to tune into the different sounds. So I find it really fun. It's and you obviously want to do it well, so you keep working on it. So every season I'll retune in with Natalie and plow on.
Does anyone else work with a coach?
The other person is so good we don't notice.
Well, I worked with Natalie as well. Yeah.
We all had a bit with Natalie, didn't we?
There was an interesting question with Siegfried initially, where where to pitch him. He could have been a bit Scottish, but James was going to be that. He could have been a bit Yorkshire, but that seemed to not make the gap as big as possible. So I decided to make him RP, but not really posh RP like Nigel Havers or James Fleet, who turns up in series 2. So, we think Siegfried might be a bit posh, but then when he meets the really posh people, we realize that he's still tipping his forelock to them. So that was an interesting pitch.
Obviously, we're at the point in the show where World War II is on the horizon. Ben, will that be affecting future storylines?
I think the way the series are designed is that we start in 1937, and this year we move into 1938, and next year we'll be moving into 1939, and so it's inevitable that war will happen, but we will experience it very much through the world of the Dales and our characters there. I think that this is never going to be a war show in inverted commas. It's going to be about this community and these people in a time of war. So anything that does come from the outside will be very much experienced in our world rather than us suddenly transporting too far. So, we'll see. But in general, yes, it will. Try not to give anything away. The war happens.
Ben is talking like that because there will be a sort of surprise in season 3, which we're not going to give away at the moment, but it's quite a remarkable episode that we'll see in season 3.
You're talking about season 3 and the chat just lit up and people are really excited, just so you know. So
we are in pre-production with season 3 as we speak.
Yeah.
Season 3 start. I can see someone saying hallelujah. Yes, season 3 starts shooting in spring, and it's very exciting.
Clearly very exciting. Someone just put a bunch of 3s. Oh, because season 3. Okay, I get it. We have a question from Fernando from Washington, D.C. Wants to know, for the actors, are there any aspects of your character that have rubbed off on you?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
I love everyone's thinking face. You're all.
Yeah, I guess maybe I've tried to take some of Tristan's positivity into my own life a bit more. It's just sort of how constantly upbeat he is. It's a nice way to live.
I've purchased 1 or 2 more pairs of dungarees since doing this series.
Oh, as you should. Siegfried, it's hard with Siegfried because he's such an impatient person, and I have 2 young daughters. The watchword with any 2 young people is patience. And James has become the son, the child that Siegfried didn't have, and Tristan has become the child that he wishes he didn't have. So no, I suppose I try and avoid Siegfried's impatience at home. It wouldn't be very helpful. I don't always succeed.
Nicholas, for you?
I think I definitely take things. Well, yeah, I think I take things from the characters, but I certainly take things from these actors. Obviously, being newer to the world of television, acting every day, I'm learning from these guys. So maybe not so much character driven, but certainly these 4. I remember one of the very first days of season 1, I watched Sam and Anna doing a scene, and I watched it from start to finish, how the acting changed from the wide shots to the close-ups and all this other stuff that would bore everyone else, but to me it was like an acting masterclass. So yeah, for me that certainly more so. Yeah.
This is a really interesting question. Tim from Norfolk wants to know if any of the cast or crew has, well, I guess mainly the cast, has actually met their counterparts from an earlier adaptation. Samuel, I know you worked with Anthony Hopkins, but I don't know if you've seen him since you took on this role.
I haven't seen him. I worked with Robert Hardy as well.
Right.
And I haven't seen either of them. We got a lovely fan letter from Christopher Timothy. I don't know whether I told you that before. He wrote us a little email about the Christmas special from season 1, which I was enormously proud of. We'd sent him 80th birthday wishes as a company, and he had my email and dropped me a line saying how much he'd liked the Christmas special, and I felt enormously pleased and proud about that, because we're just carrying their torch, really.
Anyone else? Ben, have you heard anything from people from any of the other adaptations?
I haven't actually. No. It's funny though. I think Hugh Whitmore did the Anthony Hopkins movie, and he also did an adaptation of The Borrowers and Sided with Rosie, which are things that I've also adapted. And my first ever job in film was as a runner on a TV movie that he wrote as well. So I've weirdly sort of followed Hugh Whitmore's career in an odd sort of stalkerish way.
The show has been so successful, not just critically, but with audiences. I know I talked a little bit to Rachel and Nicholas about fans approaching them, but in addition to just how kind the show is and coming at a time when we really need that, what do you think is the secret to the show's immense success? And actually, let's start with Susanne, because you've heralded so many of these great shows.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons is exactly what you just said, which is kindness. I think there's a way in which we didn't see a lot of that. Maybe for a couple of years leading up to this show going out. So seeing a group of people who are really family by choice instead of family, and choosing to really be together and help each other. And as I said before, that kind of community, I think that really hit a note with people. You couldn't see a lot of that in other places. And, a lot of television I watch now, very edgy. People aren't really kind to each other. And I think this came at a moment where people really needed to be reminded that that's a good thing. And I think people were missing their families. And I think this was a show that made you remember why you wanted to be with family. So I think it was successful for all that. But honestly, too, with the kind of humor what Ben has written into these characters, I think people just love it. They enjoy it. It's entertaining and it's warm altogether.
Colin, for you?
I think Susanne said it very well.
Mm.
And I think seeing the cast together as you have on this Zoom, you realize the nature of the relationship between the actors and how that's actually informed their performances on the screen. And I just think these are characters played by these actors that you want to spend time with in a world where with a world that takes you away from some of the more grueling and complicated and messy things that we're dealing with today. So I think for all those reasons, it's why the show has been so wonderfully embraced. And it's the writing, it's the performers, it's the acting, and it's the vision of the Dales. I mean, somebody I saw on one of the questions is, have we created the Dales through CGI? No. Everything you see on screen,
we couldn't afford it.
Is the real. We couldn't afford it. Yeah, is the real world, and it's a beautiful world.
Absolutely. I saw someone refer to the show as the anti-Succession. And as much as I love Succession, I have to agree.
I think it's built on two important things which perhaps go without saying. The first is that the first book is called If Only They Could Talk. If you're a vet, you devote yourself to trying to discover what's wrong with something that can't tell you, at least with language, at least with human language. So that requires an element of empathy and projection. Mm-hmm. And also your stated job is to reduce suffering. That's why you're a vet. That's why you do it. And it's, you said, did anyone want to be a vet? I went out with somebody who wanted to be a vet, and it's really hard. She became one, but it's a really, really hard thing to be.
Yeah.
So people who do it have to really want to reduce suffering. And I think if you build a series around those people, that's quite a good start, really.
Before we go, I will be raked across the coals if I don't at least ask Callum, is his dog nearby?
I think he's asleep in the living room.
Oh, okay. We don't want to bother him. Yeah. Lots of requests and well wishes for the dog.
I'll go and get one kiss from everyone.
And I want to remind everyone, I suspect everyone in here already knows and has their calendars marked. January 9th, 2022, season 2 begins. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone so much for joining us at home.
Oh, thank you, Jenelle, for doing this for us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you to the cast.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you so much.
Great to see you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.